Hi, I'm Rob Boyle. Today we're going to be analyzing a student's swing. The student is on the left, and the LPGA golfer we're going to look at is Maddie Mccrary, and she's on the right. She's got a wonderful swing and is an excellent golfer. I always like to talk about the address position first, and we can see that the student has a bent left arm. And the way I highlight that is I draw a line from the shoulder down to the elbow, another line from the elbow to the hands, and then another line along the shaft. So what we have here is a jagged line at the setup. And when we look at Maddie Mccrary or other professional golfers, we see a straight line from the shoulder to the hands. And then if I draw another line along the shaft, we can see that it's almost one straight line. What I would recommend for the student is that she push her hands a little bit more forward in that direction there, plus keep the left arm straight. That's how you want to be at impact. So you might as well start off that way. A couple of other things we can take a look at the address position is the student's front foot. Now see how it is pretty square. And when we look at most professional golfers, they have it flared out a little bit. When the front foot is flared out, it helps you to shift the weight more on the follow through. We can also look at the student's grip. A little tough to see, but then we can use the magnifying tool to make it a bit bigger, and we can see that the student has a strong grip. In other words, her hands are over to her right on the handle, and that is called a strong grip. It makes you come into the ball usually with a closed club face. When we look at the professional golfer, we can see that Maddie Mccrary has more of a neutral grip. So this is something we get into when we're talking about the setup. At this point, we are ready to do the backswing. And another tool at my disposal is the circle tool around the head. So I'm going to put one around the student's head there, and I'll do another one around the LPGA player. Let's have a look at the swing, and we'll do the student first. Here comes her backswing. So we can see a couple of things. We can see that her head is definitely moved out of position. I'll just show you the LPGA Golf Pro. Jack Nicklaus used to call this the least arguable fundamental, keeping the head steady, that is. The other thing we can see with the student is that the toe of her golf club, which is right where the arrow is, the toe is very tilted forward. It needs to be more up in the air, and we'll see that more from the line view. But at this point, let's continue to look at the backswing. And there comes the student's backswing. And the head is definitely moved way out of position. Once again, we'll take a look at the LPGA player, and there's Maddie Mccrary at the top of her backswing. Beautiful position. We're now ready to do the downswing. I like to have students shift their lower body in this direction, right? So we want to see the students shift it, whether it's the hips, whether it's the knees, and this is something we can experiment with. Everyone kind of shifts their weight a little bit differently, but the body weight should be moving over to the target side. Let's take a look at the LPGA player first. And here comes Maddie Mccrary's downswing. Look at her knees, look at her hips sliding over. Beautiful weight transfer. I'm going to stop her right at that point there. Let me get rid of some of these lines here because I want to take a look at the student, and we'll see what the student's weight shift is doing here. And there is some body movement, not as much as Maddie Mccrary. And one thing I always tell students, I mean, of course, the LPGA players and the PGA pros are playing every day, so they're really developing their skills. But one day the student can have that potential too, but it's nice to have the comparative swing here. Another tool I like to use at my disposal is the angle tool, which is measuring the angle between the left arm and the hands, and then another one up where the shaft is. So then we can see that, for example, Maddie Mccrary has a 68-degree retained angle. And now it's a little tough to tell because the student has a bent left arm there, but we can draw the line here, and then we draw another line up like that. So the student is about 81 degrees. So it's, in other words, it's more because she's just uncocked her wrist a bit early. Not too bad though, because I've seen golfers like that are 120 degrees at that point. So the student actually has a reasonably good retained angle. Okay, let's continue the downswing of the student. And here it comes. And there's her impact there. And we'll take a look at the professional golfer. And there's her impact. Once again, beautiful with that left arm being straight. And then another line where the shaft is. So again, it's almost one straight line there. And again, we can see the way the student started off is very similar to the way that the impact is. So we have to definitely fix up that jagged line. So there's the extension of her arms. I'm going to stop her right about there when the club is parallel to the ground. And we'll get the professional golfer to do the same. So right now her golf club is parallel to the ground. And the one noticeable thing here is again, the bent left arm. And if you can see space in between the arms at that point, you can see the grass in behind her arms. And notice how with the LPGA player, we don't see that because the LPGA player has developed extension to the target. So this is what this student needs to work on. The one really good improvement, though, is the fact that the student is now getting the back foot up in the air where it didn't happen before. In fact, it looks very similar to Maddie Mccrary. So congratulations on that to the student. And then we look at the very end of the swing, which is there, and the very end of Maddie Mccrary, which is there. Fantastic. Let's take a look at the line view. I love using the line view because you can see so many things from this angle as well. The student's posture has improved quite a bit from previous lessons. Her knees are probably bent just a little bit too much. I know that's a preference because some golfers do like to bend the knees, but you can see that Maddie's knees are just slightly flexed. Again, this is something that I talk to students on individually. All right, let's have a look at the student's backswing. So initially you can see the path there is coming back a little bit to the inside, and that's a good thing. And again, that's more of a preference too when you look at other golfers. And I'm going to stop the student right there. Now, again, very revealing to see the toe of the golf club. From this angle, we can see that it's quite tilted forward in that direction. Let's take a look at the LPGA player, Maddie Mccrary. So you can see the difference. Club roughly parallel to the ground. Look at the toe of the golf club pointing beautifully up in the air. That's something you definitely want to work on, and that's something the student has to work on. The student also has her golf club behind her a little bit too much. Some golfers, again, prefer to go back inside because they want to come down the inside. But I feel with the student that it kind of gets her arms a little bit too trapped behind her. In fact, if you take a look at the rest of the backswing, you can see her arm gets low, it's across her chest, and this is partly why her head was swaying too. You can't really see the head moving from this angle, but that's why we do the face-on view as well. So there she is at the top of the backswing, and we'll get the LPGA player to the top of her backswing. Okay, there we go. From this view, we can see two things. We can see the left wrist of the student is very, very bowed. When we take a look at the left wrist of the LPGA golfer, we can see that it's definitely flatter. And also we can zoom in on the club head. Now with the student, we can see that the toe of the golf club is angled upwards. And with the LPGA player, we can see that it's actually a little tough to see it there, but it's angled downwards, almost the same position as her wrist. So with the student, because that is really a closed position, it increases her tendency to not only hit it to the left, but also hit it low. Let's have a look at the downswing. Student first. Okay, and I'm going to stop the student right about there, and we'll get the LPGA golfer to do the same. And at this point, we can see the toe again, the toe of the golf club with the LPGA player is pointing up in the air this way, and with the student, it's definitely tilted forward. All right, let's have a look at the rest of the swing here. Student first. Student is on a nice path here. I like that inside path there. Right elbow's tucked in close to her body. That's nice. LPGA golfer is Also on an inside path, the LPGA golfer has her back foot up in the air a little bit more than the student there. The student eventually got her foot up in the air. Let's take a look at it. A little bit late, but nonetheless, it is coming up in the air, and again, a good improvement as far as the weight transfer goes. Let's take a look at Maddie Mccrary. There's her impact, solid impact, and there's her follow-through. Or at least that's partly her follow-through. From this angle, we can see a couple of things. We can see the left elbow of the student is right there, and you don't want to see that. Take a look at Maddie Mccrary. We don't see the elbow. That's because she's developed extension out to the target. And the toe of the golf club with the student is a little bit off here. It's actually angled upwards, and it really should be angled off to the left a little bit because you want to release your wrists on the follow-through. Here's the follow-through of Maddie Mccrary. Ball is beautifully flying in the air. And then we'll take a look at the student, and there's the student's follow-through. So thanks very much, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this analysis video, and I hope to have your swing on my computer screen too.